Hello, dear friends. I'm very glad to be with you again today. And so I will jump immediately into the question or the topic that you have chosen, or at least one of you. And I hope my answer will be interesting to all of you. So, the default shape, let's say, for the beings that you usually perceive. And of course, I understand this question to be connected also, for example, with other races that can be feline or reptilian and so on, that seem to be, like a predominant type of that you have beings who stand on their 2 feet, 2 legs, and having arms. That's basically what I understand, that you understand as a humanoid type of beings. And so of course, there are many different type of beings in the galaxy, even this one. But I assume that you are, of course, asking for different type of consciousnesses than are animals, let's say. But of course, there are many animals that are very conscious as well, as you know. But they communicate in different way. For example, even whales, let's say, that you have on Earth are very conscious on certain levels, beings, and even cats. So it's not really only just a humanoid, of course, type of beings. And there are, of course, like type of consciousnesses, or let's say beings who are, let's say, more evolved than what you understand your animals, for example, on Earth or different planets. Of course, there are levels of consciousness, and so life has many different shapes. And so let's say for the beings that are on a, let's say, vibrational level or consciousness evolvement, as for example we are, there are as well different type of beings in the galaxy who can function, whose bodies can function in different way. But yes, it's usually practical for beings to evolve in a way that you walk on 2 or more legs. It depends, but you have some other limbs that are more dominant for technological advancement. For technological advancement, you need some more of micro kind of like movements, or how to say, in hands or limbs, let's say. It can be also in a different way, but you have to be precise basically if you want to evolve technologically as well. And technological advancement is part of or a part of consciousness, evolvement or evolution of consciousness, or a sign of that, consciousness is evolving. So of course, you are more creative, or beings or races are more creative in the technological sense as well. There are also races who, let's say, are still more natural. They are still conscious, for example, the conscious as you are in a certain way, and slightly more. And you could still see them as more of like animalistic type of beings. There are even there is, for example, race that is that you would perceive like a dogs, but more conscious dogs, and they have a certain evolution in their let's say technologies as well, but they're still more living in flow of nature, so they also can stand up, but they usually prefer, for example, walking on 4 legs. That is still more natural to them, but they are as conscious as you are, or even more basically. So there are definitely, various type of beings, and sometimes, like when you are connecting with the consciousnesses that are even higher, let's say like angelic, for example, type of consciousnesses, that they are not really physical, but they sometimes choose it, but usually it's your interpretation of them to place them into kind of like human looking beings, and they don't mind really. It's just the way they used to communicate, with the humans, and it was translated this way that you can kind of like in a certain way relate, although sometimes, you know, in a religion it's projected in a way that it's a divine being, you know, that is very different from you, but still when you put that kind of like human, at least looking as a human aspect to it, you still can in some way relate to it as like your teacher in certain way. And so this happens also with other type of beings as well. Sometimes if those let's say consciousnesses that evolve into non-physical experience of themselves, they evolved there from type of having or having some kind of bodies, let's say, you know, form, physical form, and that was also in some way humanoid. So they sometimes can as well project that part of themselves into your consciousness, and you can depict them in that way as well. Sometimes in different way, you know, it really depends on like what let's say energy serves in the moment for you to share also with the others when you are creating art, for example. Sometimes it can be more abstract, but usually again people are more interested or can relate or connect to with some picture that has, for example, eyes. You know, it's easier for people to connect with those type of depictions, for example. And for example, we in other, let's say, galaxies, of course, it's a very similar story as with your galaxy or this galaxy. That, of course, there are some races, you know, that you can connect to and usually connect to that seem to be more humanoid as well. Sometimes the reason why you as well connect more with those type of beings is that when you have a beings that are very different in how they experience themselves, even when they're evolved and in their consciousness and also technologies, but if they are very, very different, like how they function, their bodies are not like made of bones and muscles like you are or we are, and if their shape is like, or base of their physical bodies is very different, then they evolve in very different way. Their consciousness can evolve also in a very different way that is very difficult to connect to. So that's why sometimes, or most of the time, it's very rare that you would be connecting with the type of beings that are very, very different from you. Of course, on your path of evolution, or for example our evolution, we have been able to connect with a different type of beings like this as well, but as I said, it's also for us sometimes difficult, you know, to find how to communicate with them, because it's so vastly different, you know, on a vibrational and energetic level, how they communicate, how they function, and so on. So it's almost like the way that we feel vibrations, translate vibrations, who hold certain information, cannot be at all applied in whatever they are emitting, let's say. So it's also part of our evolution to find ways as well how we can expand ourselves and our understanding of universe, and as well those, let's say, vibrations, that we can learn as well to understand those type of beings, different beings, you know. So it's practical basically for your consciousness to connect with beings that you can really relate to, that have something, you know, as well way to communicate with you. You can understand them, and also they can share something useful to you, and it's usually those type of more similar beings, and similar, of course, not just humanoid that's closely looking to like humans, but also it can be felines or reptilians, for example, or other, you know, different, you know, even insectoids, of course, you know, as well, different type of insectoid beings. But yeah, those are those who are starting to get more different from you, and you can have more issues with communicating with them. So that is kind of like your challenge with communicating with this type of beings, so sometimes it can be other type of beings and so on. And even you can have this challenge with the consciousness on your earth, that you can be connecting to or working on connecting to with the animals or trees. Trees are also very different type of consciousness. So when you are training, how to communicate with them or plants, that is again another way how you can evolve your consciousness in different way, and that is still easier than with the alien, let's say, form of plants and stuff like that, because plants and trees, for example, or animals are living here on earth, so you still share something similar, so you still have some kind of vibrations that's can help you, to align with yourself, vibrations meaning like some base of knowing this world together in certain way. So I will leave this topic in this stage, and I will give you space to James if you want to continue this topic and ask something towards that, or completely something else. It's up to you. So.